Those crimes could be any crime from a major crime to whatever. From time to time, we do have interactions with federal authorities, the FBI, the ATF, and others. We do not work with ICE. So far this year, we have an 8% decrease in crime. Those is because the shared responsibility we're having with Nashville residents. And it's been really strong, especially in the Latino and the Kurdish communities, and we intend for it to remain strong just like that. Our success depends on the cooperation that we have from the communities. Just this past Tuesday, we had our annual award ceremony. We had over 20 citizens from Nashville that were given Citizens Awards for what they did in our community, helping our police department, helping make our city safer. We had several individuals from the Latino community that also got awards for helping work in the Latino community. To all Nashville residents, if you need our help from the police department and you're the victim of a crime, call us, because we care about you regardless of where you're from, where you originate from, or your immigration status. We want to help you.
Thank you, Chief Drake. Keeping our community safe is incredibly important, and so is due process. We respect the rights of our residents, and we expect other branches of government to uphold the Constitution as well. I know several media organizations have repeated ICE's comment that they don't release names for privacy reasons, but people they've detained are entitled to a hearing. What's happening right now is not how due process has worked in this country. It is not a secret who is in police custody in Nashville, and we believe we have a right to this information from federal authorities. I am calling on ICE to release the names and release the charges. In addition to our Department of Law's request for the details of those detained, the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition and other service providers have requested a list of those detained by ICE so they can attempt to represent them in civil immigration court, and I wholeheartedly support their efforts. We're also taking action to shore up our processes in Metro and improve and accelerate transparency for our residents. This morning I filed an updated Executive Order 30 with the Metro Clerk, which tightens our timeline for reporting interactions with federal immigration authorities for emergency services agencies. It is important for us to get this right, and it's very frustrating to have seen a failure in the process. We're going to work to make sure that doesn't happen again. In addition to tracking and reporting interactions, each department's primary contact will receive training on the updated executive order and the reporting process and responsibilities. So what can we do moving forward? First up, we should know our rights. I've asked our Director of Law to share more on what individuals in our community of all backgrounds should know. Director Dietz.
We want all residents to know their rights. 250 years ago, we had a revolution to secure fundamental rights. One of the most important of those is the right to be secure in your own home without legal enforcement activity coming against you inside your home. If you are inside your home, enforcement agents are not entitled to enter your home without a judicial warrant. And that is the law, and that is the protection that we have under the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution. There are other legal rights that need to be honored. Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, on their website, they have a very good section on Know Your Rights. If you have questions, I would refer you to those. People need to understand that in the United States there are fundamental rights that need to be honored. Secondly, I have received a lot of questions about the authority of the Tennessee Highway Patrol on our streets. It is clear, as a matter of state law, THP has the right to do traffic enforcement actions on all state highways. That includes several main arteries in the neighborhood that is being affected by this significant enforcement activity. Nolensville Road, Harding Place, Old Hickory Boulevard, Bell Road, Thompson Lane, Bridley Parkway, those are all state highways. THP is fully within their authority to be there. Further, state code in various sections gives THP enforcement authority for stolen vehicles and other matters, even littering. and that's anywhere. So Metro is not in a position to tell THP where they can and cannot go in Nashville. They have extensive authority under state law. The third thing that I want to say very briefly is that if anyone sees an enforcement activity going on, if you try to impede or interfere with that activity, you may be charged with a federal crime. And so people need to understand that they do not have the right to interfere with any federal enforcement activity. So I'd encourage people to know your rights and be aware of what they are.
Hang on, let's keep this. A couple more notes. What makes Nashville special is how we look out for one another. Time and time again, this community has lifted up neighbors in need, and now is no different. We can all do something by standing united, offering support to our neighbors, visiting our immigrant-owned businesses, and continuing to be a Nashville for all of us. You can also support local fundraising efforts. More than 280 Nashvillians have already donated more than $200,000 to the Belonging Fund we announced in partnership with the Community Foundation this week. It supports families in crisis with food insecurity, transportation issues, and other immediate needs. My understanding is that families are already accessing these funds. Safety is many things, and that is something we should all remember. It's also why my recommended budget for the coming year focuses so heavily on the things that our local government does to make life better for the entire city. Over the past week, I've been encouraged by the response to the budget that we proposed on the same day I delivered the 60-second State of Metro address. Something I didn't talk about in the State of Metro is the investment in the Public Defender's Office to add more staff to put a full-time lawyer in each criminal court division, expand legal advice to clients in General Sessions Court, and create a specialized team to represent juveniles impacted by Tennessee's blended juvenile sentencing and transfer laws. We're also giving people setting bonds greater access to criminal records beyond Davidson County so they can see a suspect's entire criminal history before setting bond. All of these things are designed to make us safer. They have come from conversations with our criminal legal partners. A core component of this budget, along with investments in quality schools and core government services, is safety we deserve. As we've discussed here at length, this economy is challenging, in large part due to economic uncertainty, revoked grants, and persistent inflation. And you all heard here, we're setting a historically low tax rate. It's a full 13% lower than last year's, but these are property taxes, which means that your bill is based on your home's value. And the median home value is up 45% with our reappraisal cycle. So some people will pay more, while others will pay not as much or less than they paid last year. If you think your assessed value is incorrect, a reminder that today is the last day to file an informal appeal with the assessor's office. On the heels of our announcement of Sabrina Sussman as the Chief Program Officer for Choose How You Move, I'm happy to announce that a familiar name is returning to the program in a long-term role. Michael Briggs, who served us for a year as our Director of Transportation Planning, will now be the Deputy Chief Program Officer. Many of you know Michael served over the past year and helped us develop the Choose How You Move Transit Improvement Program. He had been working with us and simultaneously with Vanderbilt University. This brings him back full-time to see through the implementation of a generational improvement to our city's transportation and infrastructure. We've also set a date for our first meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Choose How You Move on June 2nd. They're a critical piece of implementation, providing community voices and input on implementing the improvements to our sidewalks, signals, service, and safety. With foundational projects underway, we're pushing forward with 2 of our corridors ready for community engagement, Jefferson Street and Gallatin in Maine. Community engagement is kicking off soon for both corridors, and we'll be engaging the Citizens Advisory Committee and special corridor committees to help guide their work and ensure that these corridors serve all roadway users better. May is Bike Month, and next week is National Bike to Work Week. Our Nashville Department of Transportation and the Nashville Connector staff will set up at Riverfront Station with breakfast, meals, coffee, and giveaways to celebrate Bike to Work Day in Nashville. This is something I've personally participated in many times in the past, and it's always a great reminder of the physical and mental health benefits of mixing up your commute, especially on beautiful spring days. While we hope people will consider biking to work all week, the official Bike to Work Day in Nashville is Friday the 16th, when staff will be at Riverfront Station. It's important to celebrate that day in the context of what's coming in Choose How You Move, where we are investing in more than 25 miles of new bikeways. When we're done, an extra 4,000 acres of land in Nashville will be connected to transit by continuous sidewalks and bikeways. It's also important to remember that Bike Month is about safety. Just yesterday, a Nashville man was critically injured in a collision with a car while riding his bike on Old Hickory Boulevard. Nationally, over the past decade, fatalities involving cyclists have increased by 53%. Choose How You Move is an investment in safer streets, and the decisions we're making in Bike Month are a part of improving safety on our roadways. And finally, it is a busy weekend downtown with 5 major events in and around the downtown area on Saturday. NDOT's Transportation Demand Management Program, Nashville Connector, is partnering with shared bike and scooter companies Lime, Spin, and Bird to give riders a one-time free 10-minute ride on an e-bike or scooter. You can use the code NDOT Special Events on May 10th. You can also use WeGo Public Transit to get where you're going, and rideshare will have pickup and drop-off zones at event spaces. I am now happy to take questions. Stephen?
What would your office have done if you'd gotten that alert from DEC?
I don't know that there would have been considerable change, but I think instead of asking questions about what people knew, I think Chief Drake and I both would have been able to at least make sure that within departments we knew that there was an uptick in federal enforcement. I think we have been responding to Executive Order 30 and its provisions here over the past week, and I think it would have just been a statement of less being caught by surprise and better being able to be prepared. But I don't know, Director Dietz, if you want to weigh in further on what we could have done if we had known sooner.
I think having a heads up would have helped us immensely with our various departments, especially police, and so it would have been nice to have had that information ahead of time, because we frankly spent a great deal of time on Sunday trying to figure out exactly what had happened, and we were not getting very clear answers.
I think there is a question, and actually Wally may be able to answer this, about what kinds of things we're even legally allowed to do.
Well, as I mentioned, there is a federal statute about interfering with an enforcement action. I believe we would have been able to communicate within our departments to make them aware. Beyond that, it's really an open question whether or not someone can announce in advance that there's an impending enforcement activity. That's something that we are looking into.
We also probably could have recommended that THP respond to the Federal Protective Services request rather than MMPD on the front end. Steve?
Given the problem with the messaging here and the problems that have been going on with 911 and that staff, are you considering any changes in personnel in emergency communications?
I mean, we take the whole picture into account, Steve, and so far what we've seen is an elevation of performance of the entire Department of Emergency Communications, including their incorporation of Hub Nashville, to reach and supersede national standards. And so at this time we're reviewing everything. We've made some updates to the executive order. We're expecting new training, and always we want to make sure that departmental leadership is in a position to respond effectively. So not at this time. Megan?
This could be for you and Chief Drake. During the council special meeting this week, we heard Councilmember Sepulveda call into question some of the messaging shared from El Protector Diaz regarding encouraging people to consider voluntarily leaving if they're here legally. The U.S. government this week has said that they're going to offer people here legally $1,000 in free travel if they leave, and potential for reapplication for citizenship. Is this a message that you would encourage? We've heard a lot about the fear and people sitting at home and waiting. Would you guys get kind of this messaging really share?
I haven't seen what Councilmember Sepulveda has referenced in terms of that communication, but generally no, that we're focused, especially after we've seen Imagine Nashville and knowing that particularly our foreign-born residents, have a very measurably higher level of belonging in this city. We would not want to disrupt that. I'll let Chief Drake respond if he wants.
I would say we're not encouraging anyone to leave. If you have a illegal status, then we need to try to figure out how to make that status legal and try to press the federal government to do it through that route. But we don't want people to leave. We don't want people not going to school, not going to work, and those kind of things. I do understand the apprehension, but we do not want you to just voluntarily leave. So.
Sorry, I'm going to Peyton here. Eli, I'll come back.
The executive order that you mentioned, the dispatcher that received the call on Thursday, was she within or beyond that range of requiring to report that communication with ICE?
So under the previous order, I think one of the things we're looking at is timing. That came in on a Thursday. If you count the business days to Sunday, she may have been within it, but I think this is where we've gone back and tightened it up. We are working on the training process. It's something that is in progress.
What will that look like?
A few things that for areas where we know there is more urgency, we're expecting that to address your question. We know that departments are going to have to be prepared to internally make sure that they understand the content of the executive order. Eli?
Would it be fair to say that the city is powerless to stop Tennessee Highway Patrol or ICE from conducting more mass detentions and arrests like we saw on Sunday?
I'm going to leave that to Director Dietz, but we do have significant limits on our authority.
The short answer is yes, we are powerless. We have absolutely no authority to instruct ICE not to carry out their enforcement actions. We have no authority to tell THP they cannot cooperate with ICE. This is one of the areas of the law where there's not shared authority. Federal, state, local governments often share authority. This is one of those areas where it is purely a federal enforcement matter.
Regarding THP on Nashville streets, and maybe Chief Drake, this is a better question for you. Is there, typically we don't see THP on those streets enforcing traffic. Can you characterize what a typical level of THP on Nashville streets? Typically we see them on interstates, less so on roads.
So what we've had the past year, we've had an increased presence of the Tennessee Highway Patrol on state roads. We've had partnerships because we've been a short-staffed police department, and we've done some on I-65, O'Hickory Boulevard, etc. The Tennessee Highway Patrol is actually trying to employ 50 more troopers for the Nashville area and also for the Memphis area because of the growing dynamic of the cities. But it's not uncommon to see them on Briley and other state roads now. We've asked for more of a presence before all of this to help us in reducing some of the traffic violations that we were seeing.
Will these actions make you rethink those partnerships?
The partnership with the THP has always been good. They're working with, they've been mandated to work with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Our partnership is still something we very much have to have. We just won't do immigration enforcement. We won't be detaining people for deportment. But we will still do traffic violations. We'll still look for people that are committing criminal violations, but we just won't do immigration.
Come back here.
Chief Drake, you had mentioned that you guys have worked hard to build relationships in the community as a result of the ICE raids going on. Are you worried that this could set you guys back, and what are you going to do to repair the distrust which is now in the community?
So we'll continue to work with our community engagement. A lot of this has been misinformation about our agency being involved. A lot of people thought the Metro Nashville Police Department was out working with ICE. We were not. We had no knowledge. And so we'll continue to message. I have a radio show that I do with Plaza Mariachi on Mondays. I'll do it this coming Monday. and we'll continue to be out in the community giving that message. And we are here for all of Nashvillians, including our Latino community, and so we'll just continue to work to build those efforts.
Sure.
I'm going to squeeze one last question. In regards to that dispatch call that was shared, lots of community members were angry, including council members disappointed being shared. Can we speak to kind of how in that call the ICE agent specifically asks for some specific officers to also kind of be present at the parking lot? Can you speak to the distrust that that might create for communities?
I'll speak a little bit to it, and I might invite Chief Drake to respond further. I first even became aware of that call on, I guess, Tuesday, not long before the special called meeting of Metro Council. I had not heard it myself until Wednesday, shortly before the special called meeting. What I heard, though, in listening to it was the Federal Protective Services employee identified himself as a former member of Metro Nashville Police Department. That is a personal employment decision that he made, but based on his previous employment, he obviously knew some members of the Metro Nashville Police Department. I will say, from my own employment history, there are many times when I have reached out to people that I knew personally at places I had worked before, but I also understand very clearly there are so many things about the details in that call, the fact that it kind of stopped there and wasn't heard about again until Sunday. I understand the ways in which it causes a gap in trust, but we know we have work to do. We are doing some of that work immediately starting today, and Chief Drake, I'll let you respond to anything else.
Yes, thank you. So the Federal Protective Service, they oversee the security of all of federal buildings, whether it's U.S. courthouse, anywhere in the nation. And so this employee was not a member of the ICE organization or agency. In fact, they were charged with giving security for that building. And they called in extra patrols because they knew there were going to be some detainments. That wasn't communicated to us. Our officers responded as we do any extra patrols. They got there and they saw the dynamic of the call on the CAD report and said, let's see what this is about. And then it just went from there, trying to find out what's going on. As I said earlier, I had no knowledge of this. We had no knowledge, but there are mechanisms in place now with the Department of Communications where an alert would be sent if one comes in the future.
To clarify, specific officers were requested, would MPD send those specific officers for extra patrol?
No, we've been working with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and we've asked them to help us in that endeavor. Again, we're not going to do any type of immigration enforcement. If someone has been injured, if there's a scuffle or any gunfight, anything, then we have to respond to that. But otherwise, we'll be removed from it. So, thank you.
Thank you all.